All right, Hockey Talk Show on a Friday. How's everybody doing? Welcome into the program. Live chat on Facebook and YouTube, and of course on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Hockey Talk Show. If you're listening on the podcast, thanks so much for doing that. Remember to give a thumbs up, rate, and review that one, because that's how we grow on the old podcasters. We're going to call this one the intermission show tonight. I usually try and get the shows off the ground before 7 o'clock for sure. Tonight, it is 7:51. If you're, of course, listening to this or watching later on, that doesn't really matter to you, but still, I'm just saying, I know we're into the intermissions, basically, for the 7 o'clock games, so we're going to be in and out really quick. I'm going to put two big questions in front of you tonight, and I'm really excited for you guys to answer. One of them, obviously, you can tell by the episode here. What is the greatest outdoor game the NHL has ever had? We are on the eve of the NHL 100 Classic, which I know if you're in the States, you probably haven't really heard much about it. It is a big deal in both Ottawa and Montreal, as those are the two teams going together. It is in the capital of Canada, over there in Ottawa, and it's been a pretty big deal north of the border. So for my Canadian pals out there, I know that you guys are well aware of it. If you live in the States, though, or in the New York metro area, you probably have no idea what's going on. But it is happening tomorrow night. It is going to be a national broadcast on NBC Sportsnet. So we'll be talking about it just a little bit here tonight, with the idea of what is the greatest outdoor game ever. Now, I can tell you what mine is, and it's selfish because I was at it. You know, Eddie V, welcome to the show. Eddie's Canadian. Eddie, is it a big deal? I don't know where in Canada you're from, my man, but is it a big deal? Are they talking it up? It feels like Canadian, eh? It feels like, from what I can tell, because I do consume a fair amount of Canadian media, probably more so than any other American who doesn't live in Detroit or Buffalo or something like that. You know, I do keep up with the radio up there, and some of the TV of what I can. Definitely a lot of the print. It feels like it's a pretty big deal up there in Canada, but again, down here in the States, we're not really hearing all that much about it. So let me know in the comments if I'm crazy there. Is it a big deal or not? It feels like a big deal up in Canada right now. It's going to be, I think, a ton of fun. I mean, it looks like it's going to be great. There's a lot of press on it. Bring you over here, Max Pacioretty. Look at this, posing with the kids. Look at that. Is that adorable? Is that not adorable, or what? I think it's going to be a really nice scene. It looks to be. It looks like we're in for a super nice one here, with the NHL 100 Classic coming tomorrow night, 7 o'clock from Ottawa. I believe that's the football stadium, Lansdowne, if I'm not mistaken. No, I know it's Montreal and Ottawa, but I want to know, is it a big deal? Are people talking about it? Is there a buzz on the streets? There's a few times that I've been to Canada. One of the things I love about it is you literally can hear hockey talk nonstop. And the first time I went to Canada, I was walking off of the plane, JFK to Toronto. I was walking off of the plane, and like the baggage handlers and the ticket counter people, like they were talking about the Leafs. And I was like, oh my God, this is fantastic. Like, this is so good. Like, because here in New York, you know, especially on Long Island, it's the Yankees. You know, it's going to be Yankee talk. You can walk into a deli and hear people talking about the Yankees for the most part. That's probably going to happen to you. You're not going to get a lot of Ranger Islander talk. If they're in the playoffs, yeah, you'll get it. You know, you might get some Knicks talk, maybe some Giants, Jets talk. Definitely that kind of stuff will happen. But hockey, for the most part, it's not at the top of everybody's list down here in the States. So I do love that about Canada. And I found that to be when I was in Montreal as well, too, where there was just, I mean, you know, there was, you know, Canadians logos and flags on all the businesses and stuff. It was a lot of fun. It was just a lot of fun kind of just walking around old Montreal and seeing, you know, not only, you know, Canadian flags in the windows of businesses, but stickers on cars and, you know, stuff like that, you know. They sell tinfoil at the local rinks for fighting hockey moms up here. Is that what it is? Hockey moms got their own special tin foil. Old school, old time hockey. So what do you think is the best outdoor game in the National Hockey League history? I will throw two out there. For me, Buffalo, Pittsburgh was a special one. It was the first one, although technically not, though. I think the first Heritage Classic was first, but that really didn't get national coverage here in the States. For us, the big first one was Buffalo and Pittsburgh, and the falling snow was so magical. Like just the way it happened. New Year's Day, I was pumped and excited to check it out. You know, turn it on. You're reeling from New Year's the night before. You know, everybody's hurting a little bit. You get it on the TV there, and you know, it starts to snow, and the heroics and all that stuff, and it was just wonderful to see. Yeah, I don't know. I think Montreal Edmonton in the Heritage Classic was indeed first, but I don't know. That wasn't televised here in the States. For us in the States, the first one that we got was Pittsburgh and Buffalo, which was terrible because it's Buffalo. I mean, I get seeing Pittsburgh in there, but Buffalo, for reals. But it was the snow and the way the game ended. It was just really nice. It was a nice scene to take in. For me personally, the greatest outdoor game I did get to attend was Rangers Islanders at Yankee Stadium. Unfortunately, my Isles lost, but still, it was quite an experience. And that's what brings me to tomorrow night's game at Lansdowne in Ottawa. It is going to be, I think we have the weather here, right? It is going to be, let's see. Cloudy skies, few flakes, 70% chance in the afternoon of flurries, light snow Friday night. Senators alumni game playing, periods of light snow to end Saturday morning. Environment Canada predicts. Then there's a forecast of a mix of sun and clouds and a high of minus 11 degrees Celsius, which is typical low for this time of year. If you're heading to the NHL Classic game at Lansdowne, bundle up. The temperature will be sliding to a forecast low of minus 21 degrees Celsius. Holy cow. Minus 21 degrees Celsius. Sweet Mother Mary. That is cold. That is cold. I mean, that's freezing. Now, when I went to watch the Isles and Rangers in Yankee Stadium, that was the coldest. Everyone will be filled with antifreeze. Eddie V on YouTube. I would honestly, when I watched the Rangers and Islanders, I literally thought about drinking antifreeze for one of two reasons. Either one, it was going to work and make me not cold, or two, it was going to kill me and I wouldn't have to feel how cold it was. Like that, literally, that was really, I sat there and I thought about it. I really thought about it. It was cold. It was cold. I mean, freezing. I did not like it. I wore long johns, I wore pajama pants, and I wore jeans on top of that. That is how, and I had shirt, long sleeve shirt, short sleeve shirt, sweatshirt, jacket, like the whole thing. It was still so cold. Let me give you an idea of how cold it was. Is that minus 5? Is minus 21 is minus 5 degrees Fahrenheit? But what is it in Kelvin? 252 degrees Kelvin. Holy cow. When I went to the outdoor game at Yankee Stadium, it was the coldest thing I'd ever felt in my entire life. We got a beer when we first got there. A couple of us got a beer. I don't even remember half of this, but I just remember getting a beer, drinking it, taking sips. It was good, even though I was freezing. And I remember putting the beer down and watching the game. And then I remember looking down at the beer and noticing that the beer was freezing. Like the beer was actually turning into ice. Now, I don't know if you know this, but it's really hard to freeze alcohol. I mean, really hard. Probably easier to freeze beer because there's a fair amount of water in there as well. But still, it was like the beer was turning into a beer slushy. That is how uncomfortably cold it was that night in Yankee Stadium. I mean, it was awful. I got to be honest with you. I loved and hated every minute of it. It was great, and it was also freezing. It was also freezing. They sell little booze flasks shaped like pucks so people can smuggle them into the games. Yeah, there's no booze. A budsicle. Yeah, there's no booze. I remember getting I remember abandoning the beer and at some point in the second period, maybe being like, I'm going to get hot chocolate. And you'd get the hot chocolate and you drink it. It would be great, but it would get so cold so fast. It was like useless. I remember going into the gift shop just to get warm, just to feel warmth for 2 minutes. I mean, it was unbelievably cold. Unbelievably cold. It was the coldest I had ever felt in my entire life. I mean, frigid. But it was such a wonderful moment. I'm telling you, if you've never seen an outdoor game, make sure you guys get out to one because you'll never forget how cold it is. Unless you're going to see Anaheim and the Kings, and that's another story altogether. But Montreal and Ottawa tomorrow night. It should be a lot of fun. Puck drops at 7 o'clock. I'm sure there'll be tons of features on everything that's going on out there with the NHL 100 Classic. I liked last year's game. Was it last year's or the year before? I think it was last year's. I liked Toronto and Detroit, too. Although that was a good one. I thought those uniforms in particular were really good. In fact, maybe tomorrow or Monday, we'll recap best outdoor uniforms. Best outdoor unis would be a good thing to go over. I didn't really like the Rangers Islander uniforms. I like the NY of the Isles. I didn't like the rigid, pointy shoulders or anything like that. I didn't really like it that much. I got what they were going for. They were cool at the time, but they didn't really hold up. The NY for the Islanders held up, I feel. But then they changed the whole jersey. I had no problem with the patch. It was the jersey that kind of stunk. The Rangers this time around, Rangers Buffalo Winter Classic, sweet jerseys. Again, we put the links back up in the description below if you guys want to check that out. But I love those Toronto, Detroit uniforms, just old school throwbacks. Really, really sweet. I remember when the Rangers played the Islanders, the Rangers also played the Devils, and the Devils were just like, we're just going to wear our throwback jerseys. That's all they did. Lou Lamoriello is such a curmudgeon sometimes. He wouldn't let the league develop new jerseys for them because it was the Coors Light outdoor series from what I remember. And so they went with this sort of silvery, shiny, sort of a garb. Like that was really the theme. There was a link between the Rangers and the Islanders uniforms. I remember that, and I just remember the Devils just being like, we're going to wear the old red and green ones, the old Christmas sweaters. They weren't having it. They just were not having it. Typical Lou Lamoriello curmudgeonly uniforms. I do want to ask another question to the ladies in the audience. You guys are going to enjoy this one. I'm curious to get your opinion out on that one. Eddie V, we used to play out on the frozen fields in the 70s. It was so cold. Yeah, we don't have a lot of outdoor rinks in the States here, but growing up playing hockey and playing for my high school and all that, there's a couple of rinks. There's a few rinks that are outdoor. They have the canopies over them. So you're out of the elements as far as rain or snow goes. But for the most part, it is cold and you do feel that wind coming in there. Secaucus was like that. Secaucus, New Jersey, just by the Meadowlands, where the Jets and Giants play. That rink was like that. In fact, I remember one night it was so cold. It was below zero, not as cold as the Winter Classic game. But I just remember my skates not really being able to dig into the ice. I remember stopping and hearing how brittle both the blade and the ice were. Like, when you stop, you have that sound. When you stop on ice that's like minus 10 degrees, like it's different. I don't know. It was just there was a different sound to it. And I remember everybody's sort of coming to this agreement of like, don't hit me. Like nobody was throwing checks. It was too cold to throw checks. In fact, I remember I caught a puck on my finger. I was wearing a glove, but it kind of came up on me and kind of hit my finger on the bottom end, and just a throbbing pain because it was so cold. It was just unbelievable. It was just frigidly cold. Quickly here as we go through the remainder of our topics, sort of a big deal for the Tampa Bay Lightning, who continue to roll. Ryan Callahan out indefinitely with an upper body injury. This came in the game against the Arizona Coyotes last night. He got tangled up with Oliver Ekman-Larsson, fell to the ice and left the game. He landed on his arm, they believe a separated shoulder. So Ryan Callahan could be out for the remainder of the season. I think he only has a goal and 5 assists, so he's not really chiming in a bunch offensively for the Tampa Bay Lightning, but Ryan Callahan's a locker room guy, and you want him to be healthy. Great on the penalty kill. You don't want to be paying him what you're paying him. That's a bad thing, but you know, for the most part, it's good to have a Ryan Callahan in the locker room. That no doubt is a hit for the Tampa Bay Lightning, although they're so far ahead in the points, I don't know if they'll ever really feel it. I'll tell you what could be good news for Edmonton Oiler fans. This guy is coming back into the lineup tomorrow night. Cam Talbot was activated off of injured reserve. Is this the spark that the Edmonton Oilers need? Talbot was 10-10-1, 3 goals against average, not out for a ton of time. Put on injured reserve about 2 weeks ago. But, you know, is this the, you know, he had a little time away from the game, get a little perspective in there, come back and see, you know, like, could this be that little break, that little time off? Could this be the spark? Because Cam Talbot, when Cam Talbot's on, it's good for the Edmonton Oilers. We've seen how great they can be. You know, if he's not on, who really knows? Who really knows what can happen? Rangers South are all out. I don't know what that means. Is that code? Should I leave the studio? Is that a bomb threat? I'm not sure what's happening. Did the Rangers sell out? I don't know if they sold out of their... I actually think you can still buy tickets for the Citi Field game, if I'm not mistaken. You won't catch me there, though. Not unless I have a guarantee it's going to be 50 degrees. If it's going to be 50 degrees, maybe I'll take a ride. Maybe I'll take a ride into Citi Field. If it's going to be another cold one, I am not sitting through Rangers Buffalo. That's just awful. That's the other bad part about this Montreal and Ottawa series. Both teams are miserable right now. It stinks for the NHL to have this. Like, you want that memorable, you know, time, but it stinks to have two teams in there that are just downright awful right now. They're not even fun to watch. I mean, Carey Price will be fun. That's always good. But other than that, you know, is the Ottawa-Montreal game not sold out yet either? Or are you talking about the Winter Classic game? I'm not surprised the Winter Classic game is not. I mean, I'm a little surprised, but I'm not overly surprised. You know, the one thing about the first one was it was historic because it was in Yankee Stadium. You know, it was kind of, well, granted, it was the new Yankee Stadium, but still, Yankee Stadium is Yankee Stadium, no matter what. In Tampa, all the ex-Rangers are injured. Yeah, Tampa South. Oh, I get it. Rangers South are all out. I get it. I'm a little slow tonight. A little slow. That is Tony the Tiger with Max Pacioretty. I believe so. I believe. And look at all the kids just huddled for warmth. Look at all these poor kids. They're like, how long do we have to stand here and pose for this picture? We're freezing. Let's hug for warmth. 398.6s. How about that? A City Slickers reference on the Hockey Talk Show tonight. That was memorable. Yeah, I don't know what the deal is on the tickets for. I would assume that the Montreal game is sold out, but I don't know about the other one. I think there's actually. I thought I saw an advertisement for tickets to the game at Citi Field, so that clearly isn't selling out. Ladies, here's a question, fellas. You can answer this too. How long do you think it will be until we have a lady in the National Hockey League? How long do you think? What's the time frame there? Do you think it will ever happen? Do you think it will never happen? Ever or never? And when? If so, when? When will then be now? Soon. I wonder. I think I have my assumptions here. But we bring this up because as you can see on the screen there, Chrissy Wendell skated with the Minnesota Wild at the XL Energy Center today. She's 36 years old. She's one of the best hockey players, one of the best lady hockey players. U.S. Olympian, silver at 2002 Salt Lake City Olympic Games, bronze at the 2006 Torino Olympics. She won national championships at the University of Minnesota. She's one of the best. She is one of the best. She's married to John Pohl, who played a few games for the St. Louis Blues a few years ago. And she skated with the Minnesota Wild, saying, quote, "You forget how big those guys are until being down there on the ice with them. It was fun. The guys are really nice, really welcoming, and the coaching staff was great. It was fun to be out there." This is part of the Minnesota Wild Girls Hockey Weekend. How long do you think a lady is involved in the National Hockey League? I honestly think, this is my opinion, within 10 years, we have a lady in the National Hockey League. I believe within the next 5 years, we have a female coach in the National Hockey League. And I'm not talking about skating coach, because believe it or not, a lot of the skating coaches that the professionals have are ladies. And there's a lot of them. But I believe within 5 years, we'll have a female behind the bench in an assistant coach capacity. I really believe this. Maybe Chrissy Wendell, Camby Granado. You know, you go down in the list and name all the lady female Olympians that we've had that have been phenomenal hockey players and that have played on all these big stages. I honestly don't think we can go 5 more years without a lady not in the National Hockey League. I believe that women coaches are going to be a big part of sports moving forward. I really do believe this. When Aaron Boone, or Aaron Boone, was announced as the new manager of the New York Yankees, forgive me for not knowing her name, but his broadcast partner is a young lady, and he was asked if he would be bringing her on in some sort of capacity as a coach. Now, I'm against broadcast people becoming coaches because I am a broadcast person. It's so much easier to second guess things than to actually be a coach. But all kidding aside, he said, and he danced around it. And he said, I don't know. I think her time will come if she really wants it, blah, 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 this and that. I think we're going to see a female coach in Major League Baseball. I think we'll see a female coach in the National Hockey League. I think it's possible in the NBA. I don't foresee it happening in the National Football League. I really, really don't. I really don't foresee that happening. I don't know why. I think because with baseball, hockey, and football, baseball, hockey, and basketball, the difference between men and women are just, it's just physicality. The men are bigger in the sports, all the some of the physical, and not in some cases. I always like to see, what was that, the lady on the Los Angeles Sparks? I always wanted to see her take on Muggsy Bogues. I thought that would have been a hell of a matchup. I really thought that would have been a close matchup. I would have taken the lady, Cheryl Sparks. Is that her name? I don't know. Cheryl Swoops. Was it Cheryl Swoops? Might have been Swoops. I can't remember. But for the most part, I think that, the big thing against women in these sports, they all say, oh, well, you know, until you're in those scenarios, you know, it's like, and not even a thing against women, in people in general, they'll knock a coach who wasn't a player. You know, there's always that thing, well, until you play the game, you don't really know, you know. I mean, even some of the more successful coaches, you know, some of them haven't played long in the game of hockey. And just because you played a long time doesn't mean you're going to be a good coach. I mean, look at Wayne Gretzky. You know, he's the greatest. And didn't make all that great of a coach. Granted, he was, you know, coaching Arizona, but still. You know. So, you know, there is that thing, but I feel like, especially with the ladies who performed in the Olympic hockey team, you know, if you're in playing that big of a game, Lisa Leslie, thank you, Lisa Leslie. I think Cheryl Swoops was somebody too. I can't remember. The WNBA has really fallen off for me. I used to kind of know some of the bigger players, you know, but I don't anymore. It's really hard to tell. I think when you play on that big of a stage in Olympic hockey, granted, that's a short tournament. It's not a long season. Still, I think you can think, know, understand, learn, and teach the game, because that's really what coaching is these days. You're not really out there. It's X's and O's, sure, but it's more like talking it out and, you know, strategy and, you know, psychology. And I think that women can do that. You know, I don't think that there's going to be many excuses holding them back anymore. You know, I think, you know, same, like, you know, the game doesn't really change all that much from female to male as far as strategy and all that other stuff goes in the National Hockey League. Basketball is the same thing. I think their 3-point line might be different, but other than that, I mean, it's the same damn game. So I think, sure, you know, a lady coach can figure out how to, you know, get a basketball team going in the NBA. I don't think it's a problem. Baseball, it's a lot of strategy. You know, do I think like a female would make a great, like, I don't think, if I had to pick a position for a female in baseball, bench coach, you know, first base coach, you know what I'm saying? Maybe not pitching coach. Those tend to be a lot of ex-pitchers. You know, maybe not hitting coach. But, you know, third base coach, first base coach, bench coach, manager. Like, I think a female could slide right into that role, and it really wouldn't make too much of a difference. Football, I think, is the only one where you'd have that barrier of, you would never really be able to experience what it's like to play a National Football League game, you know? Same thing is where they don't really hire all that many coaches that either didn't play or literally weren't coaching in systems for the last 30 some odd years. You know what I mean? Like, it really doesn't, you don't really get all that, that far advanced in coaching in football unless you've been doing it for, and I mean, like, you know, you were the special teams coach and you were the defensive end coach and the running back coach, and then maybe you got the offensive line coach, and then you were the offensive coordinator. Like, you really, it's very difficult if you weren't a player to be into coaching. Now, Liz brings up an awesome point. There was a female goaltender in the National Hockey League. I always butcher her name, Manon Rhéaume, I believe is how they pronounce it. She was with the Tampa Bay Lightning, although that technically was just an, oh yeah, Manon, yeah, see, you got it. That was in the preseason. That's what I was going to say. That was in the preseason of the Tampa Bay Lightning. They were an expansion team. It was clearly just a publicity stunt. Man, she was good from what I understand, but I remember going back and looking at her record, and she did give up a bunch of goals while she was in net. I believe. I could be entirely wrong about that, but I believe that was the case. And I remember thinking back at the time then that if a female was going to play in the National Hockey League, goalie would be the spot. Like just flexibility, reflexes, you know. I think that there could be a female goaltender in the league. I think that there could be a female forward defenseman if the right things come about, you know, if the right circumstances. But a lot of it is, you know, there's a physicality to it. She stopped 7 of 9 shots. Was that all she faced, was 9 shots? I thought she played a game or two. I thought she was in there for a couple of games. I just remember it being great that she finally got an opportunity, but I also remember it kind of stunk because it was a clear publicity stunt on the part of the Tampa Bay Lightning to draw in people to hockey in this non-traditional market. It was Phil Esposito's idea, I believe. I think it definitely worked as far as to bring attention in. But that was, when did Tampa come in? 92, 93. So, I mean, you're talking about almost 25 years ago at this point. And we haven't ever seen anything else ever come close. I think you'll see a female coach in the National Hockey League first. And then I think maybe one day you will see an actual female lace up with the boys. I think it'll change the dynamic of the locker room. I think there'll be a ton of people who don't like it. But I just don't think it's anything that could be stopped. And, that being said, if a lady were to come around and actually be good enough to compete, I don't think any general manager would ever turn that down. There is literally nothing in the bylaws of the National Hockey League that says a player must be of male persuasion. Haley Wickenheiser could coach at that level. Yeah, Haley, Chrissy, Cami Granato to me just comes right up to the top. I always thought she thought the game really well and was one of those great players where she wasn't the best and highest scorer on the ice at all times, but just was like the best thinker of the game, So I like Cami Granato a whole ton. I definitely think one of those ladies who, were, playing in international competitions for 15, 20 years could definitely make it happen. Now, there is a female hockey league that is going on, the WNHL, I believe it's called. And I've been trying to get to a game for a couple of years now. All my buddies and I, we've been talking about it for a while. I don't know how well that league is actually doing. I know they've actually switched some franchises around. Oh, the NWHL. I know they've switched some franchises around. It's only a 4-team league right now. So it's got a while to go until it, grows up a little bit. The Buffalo Buttes, the Boston Pride, the Connecticut Whale, and the Metropolitan Riveters, who I know have moved locations so far. So, one of these ladies could wind up making it out. I think they should. I think if you got somebody good enough, you got to try it out. Granato had an outstanding work ethic off the ice. Yeah, I mean, I just remember seeing a lot of video and features on Cami. Like she was the sweetheart of the media. She really, really was. Like they followed her around. I just remember seeing a lot of features on her. There wasn't a ton of access to women's hockey, in anything really. I mean, I'm talking about, you're going back 10, 15, 20 years, well before the internet has matured as much as it has now. So it wasn't easy to consume such information, but I do remember, being able to catch a lot about Cami Granato, and just always thought, she comes from a hockey family. You know what I'm saying? Like she comes from the family that talks hockey at dinner all the time and every time. Tony certainly was successful, had his hand in coaching for a while there, front office stuff. I just felt like she would have been able to slide right in with no issues and help contribute to a team. I mean, you're telling me that Cami Granato can't run a defense on a National Hockey League team right now? I think that stuff is coming one day. It's coming one day soon. And mark my words, and maybe this is just the marketer in me talking about it, but there'll be a groundswell from social media. Pressure will be put on. It'll take a while, but I think you'll see it. I really, really do. I really feel that way, that you will actually see that happening. Here's something that I saw happening. I saw this coming. Joshua Hosang sent back down to the Bridgeport Sound Tigers. The Islanders announced on Friday. Isles play just once in the next 4. I believe they are activating. Oh, did they recall Steve Bernier? That's pretty much a waste. He's not going to play. I saw this coming. Isles have lost 6 of their last 8. They're on a little bit of a tough stretch right now. The Hosang, Brock Nelson line, Beauvillier line, not playing all that great. You can send down Hosang and send a message to everybody on that line. I believe that's what they're doing. Hosang, I thought, was playing okay. Not as good as he was. I defended him last time, saying he shouldn't have been sent down that first time around. He deserves to be sent down this time. Not that he's playing necessarily all that bad. He did have a few lapses in the defensive end, the whole team. But I think this is just we got to shake something up. We got to send a message to the other guys. Doug Waite was not happy with his bench on last night in the game. They had another loss. So Joshua Hosang gets sent down. No real surprise there. Another little Islanders tidbit for you here. Jim Bomback on Twitter earlier today, or was this yesterday? It was yesterday. Excuse me, yesterday night. I'm getting a strong sense from the people I talked to that the Belmont decision likely to come sometime within 3 weeks. That's pretty amazing. This is moving incredibly fast. I never thought I would see this both on the Seattle and expansion front and on the Islanders moving back to Long Island front. This is moving at an incredible speed. The fact that they had the RFP open discussion just a few nights ago, I should say. We had Randy Marshall on this show from Newsday. She came in. If you hadn't seen that one, go back and watch it. Go back and listen to it. It's on the podcast. It's on Facebook and YouTube. Watch the episode. We talk about the Islanders Belmont Arena situation explained. Randy Marshall from Newsday came in and was brilliant with us, gave us all the insight. I think the fact that this is moving so quickly is clearly in favor of the New York Islanders. I think the Oakview Group and Tim Lewicki has a huge influence over not only the National Hockey League, but local politicians and everybody else. This guy is a master business practitioner. Tim Lewicki is just one of these guys. I mean, he's like, Mark Zuckerberg and, Steve Jobs, like all just rolled into one. He knows how to talk to people, the right people to talk to. He's got a ton of money behind him with the Oakview Group. By the way, Oakview is financing that Seattle arena all by themselves. No public money. $600 million coming from private funding, courtesy of Tim Lewicki's Oakview Group. The guy is ridiculously amazing when it comes to getting things done. And now we're seeing how fast this Belmont decision is moving. This is way sooner than anybody thought it was going to be. I mean, they literally could have shovels in the ground in 2 years, maybe even less. Who the hell knows? Maybe by next season. I mean, honestly, who really knows? It'll be interesting to see, but the fact that Jim and Randy and everybody at Newsday who've been following this exclusively is coming out here talking about we'll get an announcement in 3 weeks. To me, that says the Islanders are going to get a new arena. I mean, they're not going to move this fast for the soccer team who, like Randy said when she was on this program, does have some other options. This is my opinion and my opinion alone. That's just how I feel about it. If it's moving this fast, to me, this is Lewicki and the Oakview Group making sure they are pushing all the right buttons. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised, to be perfectly frank with you, if the Oakview Group winds up getting involved with NYCFC on a soccer stadium somewhere else. I would not be surprised whatsoever if that was sort of in the cards. So we'll wait and see. I don't know why the urgency. Things like this usually take a long time. The last time they had an RFP, there was 4 years until finally everybody realized it wasn't happening. So for this one to go so super quickly is really, really shocking. I also think that the times have changed and the climate has changed. I do think they want to winterize Belmont, and I do think they want to expand that casino over there in Aqueduct. So I think that has a big part of it. Greg on Facebook, I guess no paid vacation time on the Hockey Talk Show. No, absolutely not. The boss, kind of a jerk on the Hockey Talk Show. Got nicer bosses at WEHM Radio. And finally, I will leave you with this. Quite the wonderful moment. By the way, for all the naysayers who say I can't pick a game, I picked Vegas and Pittsburgh. I was right. Vegas pulled it out. But look at this nice brotherly love moment right here between Marc-Andre Fleury and Matt Murray. Is this not a bromance or what? Look at this. Oh, give me some love. Hat tip, shoulder tip. Look at this. Shoulder knock. Good game, man. I know, it was a good game. You were hard to play against. I know. Pizza after the game? Sure. Strip club? Yep. That was the conversation I think they had. I'm assuming. A lot of assumptions in that one. Did I pick Jersey over Montreal? Well, I was wrong with it. Thanks for pointing that out. That was really, Eddie, that was You didn't have to do it so quickly, my man. That's all I'm saying. I have no problem with you pointing it out that when I'm wrong, but, you know, let it lie there for 30 seconds before you do it. Let me feel good for at least a couple of seconds before you pour some water on top of me. Look at these two, though. Seriously, Murray and Fleury. Just the love. Look at the Penguins' Instagram. We're crying in the clubhouse. That's adorable. Totes adorbs between these two. I think they're going to, by the way, and again, we don't really delve into entertainment news all that often, but if you haven't heard, they're doing a remake of When Harry Met Sally, and as of right now, Marc-Andre Fleury and Matt Murray are in the roles of Billy Crystal and I'll have what she's having. I forget it. Meg Ryan. I miss Meg Ryan. Remember when Meg Ryan was in every romantic comedy? Damn it, those were good days. Those were good days. National Hockey League action going on right now across the league. Checking these scores for you quickly here. Dallas and the Devils 2-2 with 8:14 left in the second. Carolina and Buffalo 1-1 in the second. Rangers over the Kings 2-1 and 4:11 left in the 2:45 left in the second period. And Toronto has a 1-0 lead over the Detroit Red Wings, or Detroit, as the Canadians say. San Jose, Vancouver coming up at the 10 o'clock. There is a ton of action in the National Hockey League tomorrow, and it is all spread out. Edmonton and Minnesota at 2. Rangers, Boston at 5. Winnipeg, St. Louis. I don't know why they schedule games against the NHL Outdoor Classic. The league is incredibly smart, and I love to blow smoke up their rear end, but it's just so dumb. You have a national game outdoor, you know, try not to schedule anything else around it. I get it's a Saturday night. It's a busy night in the league. A lot of the arenas are going to be filled on that night. You're going to sell a lot of tickets. I understand all that, but from a national TV revenue standpoint, just clear the decks for them a little bit. So Montreal and Ottawa, NBC Network here. In the States, it'll be CBC up in Canada for you guys. Isles and Kings at 7 o'clock. Dallas, Philly at 7. Columbus and Carolina at 7. Pittsburgh and Arizona at 8 o'clock. Anaheim, Washington at 8. Tampa and Colorado at 9. Nashville, Calgary at 10. If I had to pick one surefire game to give you guys, how about this one to go out on a limb? Pittsburgh over Arizona in the 8 o'clock game. You could take that one to the bank. If Pittsburgh doesn't beat Arizona tomorrow night, I will do this show naked, which will not be good for anybody. It's not really going to happen. But that is my pick for tomorrow night. All right, that's going to wrap up the Hockey Talk show for this evening. Pleasure hanging out with you guys. You want to come say hello? Oh, okay. Pleasure hanging out with you guys. Don't know how much we'll be active over the weekend. Maybe some tweets and whatnot. So make sure you check in. Remember to share on Facebook and YouTube. And if you're on the podcast, rate and review. Enjoy the Friday night hockey action, everybody. I will see you guys on Monday. Another week of 5 live right here.